Today, I'm going to share all the mistakes I made because I've learned from my coaching clients that they are restrained by their past failure. Let's break that failure myth and talk about how failure is good. Welcome to Richer Soul, your journey to a more purposeful, intentional, amazing life. Where are you going to go and how are you going to get there? Let's figure that out together. At the core is financial success to be able to do what you want, when you want, how you want. It's about personal freedom. Today, I want to share a lot of the mistakes in the different areas of life that I have made. The goal is that you can learn from my mistakes, and also that you walk away knowing that in spite of lots of mistakes and failures, you can still have a happy, abundant life. When my kids were growing up and they were little and they were learning to walk, they would fall down a lot. And I noticed if you laughed when they fell on their bottoms, they would laugh too. But if you made a face of worry and shock, they would cry. It's all about the mindset. We look at what happens to us. The reality is, life is 10% what happens to us and 90% how we react to it. How are you reacting to the choices that you're given? I've made a ton of financial mistakes, so let's get started with this category. The key here is that in spite of the mistakes, I kept saving and investing instead of giving up. You already know the power of compound interest and how it takes time for success. I was smart in the fact that with my first real paycheck out of college, I started multiple automated savings programs. Some went into a 401k, some into a savings account, some into company stock, some to after-tax mutual funds. But that is where the smartness ended. See, I thought I knew how to invest. Boy, was I wrong. I bought high, sold low, and kept chasing returns. Let's talk about the first one. We all know that we should buy low and sell high. However, in reality, what we do is chase the euphoria and exuberance of a market that is taking off. So when a bubble occurs, we naturally follow the herd and run without thinking into the market. It's just as an ingrained psychological trait. When the market tanks, we all run away from it with fear. Historical studies of individual performance prove this is the case. Same for me. However, I did have some sense of stupid. When the internet stock craze came about, I sold out at the top because it just made no sense anymore, and I was lucky to get back into the bottom a few years later. When the real estate bubble soared, I stayed out knowing it was a bubble. What I didn't realize was that the real estate bubble was going to ripple over into everything else, and my portfolio crashed. And you know what? I sold out in fear at the bottom, a lot of my holdings. This caused me to lose hundreds of thousands of dollars. I'm still in the market today, and by historical valuations, we are at a level that may be unsustainable. Now, please understand, I don't give financial advice. I'm only sharing my story and thoughts. You need a professional who understands your situation. Over the next few months, I'm going to have conversations with my professionals about pulling some money out of the stock market because of current valuations are at all-time highs, and we have not had a market pullback in quite a while. By the way, the market historically tanks about every 7 years, and so you need to be mentally prepared for the roller coaster ride and know what you are going to do when it happens. The other problem right now is that the bond market is also in a bubble, and interest rates are at the lowest I've seen, which means I have to be okay with an almost 0% return. That's not easy to live with. However, not losing money is always better sometimes than winning and gaining money. So sometimes we have to just be okay that we're going to have a flat market, especially when we're sitting in times of bubbles. I also chased returns in stocks and mutual funds that had great returns the prior year, only to watch them tank the next year after I bought at the highs. This is why people talk about buying a total stock market fund and forgetting about it. Remember, Fidelity did a study to see what it was about their most successful account holders had in common. Turns out they forgot they had accounts. No one can predict the market, so just assuming the American economy will continue to do well is a simple plan. And that's what drives the stock market overall. Sometimes we get suckered by people who we think are right. I want to share a story about a stockbroker and how he convinced people he was smart and right. On Monday, he would cold call 100 people and make a stock prediction. He told half of them, 50, that a particular stock would go up. And for the other 50, he said it would go down. The next day, he would call the 50 people who he gave the right info to, and he'd make another prediction on a stock. For half of them, he said it would go up, and for half, he told them it would go down. On Wednesday, he would call the 25 people who he was now right with 2 days in a row, and he'd give them another stock prediction. Again, half and half. Half going up, half going down. Thursday, he called the people again that he was correct with. Now realize he has 3 days of perfect predictions for this group. And he would tell them another stock tip, and he'd tell them half going up, half going down. Now it's Friday morning. On Friday morning, there are only 3 people left for him to call. He's been right 4 days in a row. He calls those 3 people up Friday morning and says, I've been right 4 days in a row. Are you ready to make some money? We all get suckered by these things. I know I have. Mutual fund companies do the same thing. They start funds, and when the fund does bad, they close it, and it disappears. So all their current funds look successful. The bad just disappears. You have to watch out for this and not be the sucker. Most people will always tell you about their wins, but no one talks about their losses. Let's face it, if you're a smart stock picker, you should work in the industry and get paid a lot of money for your knowledge. At the end of the day, a simple, basic, well-diversified portfolio that you set and forget with automated savings seems to be best for most people. In the future, we'll talk about moving up to a higher level investing for those who want to put the effort in. But for everyone else, this is a pretty successful model to follow to build wealth. Once you've done this, you can learn to focus more of your energy on maintaining your wealth as you have a larger sum to invest. If I had just followed this simple advice when I was 22 years old till now, I would have so much more money than I do. But I still continue, and I still learn, and I still do it. Now, to be able to do this, you need to not make another mistake I did early on. It was twofold: consumerism and small monthly payments. It's so easy to say, oh, it's only a couple of bucks a month. I can afford that. In my early 20s, I had financial success with income, and I went on a spending binge. The good thing was my expenses were low. However, things did get out of control with the $25 a month for this and a $50 a month for that. Today, it's so much easier to do that. Just look at what your smartphone bill is and what it's costing you over the year with the prices of the plan and the monthly cost of the phone and all the fees that go along. Same thing goes for your cable bill. Companies have learned that small monthly fees are an easy hurdle to sell you on something, and you forget and keep paying them even when you don't use the item. Planet Fitness and their $10 a month club fee is exactly that. They charge you $10 to say you belong to a gym, even though you never go. Once I realized what was happening, I got rid of my monthly fees, and I do everything I can not to have them today. Keeping your expenses low means that you're going to achieve financial freedom even faster. I was lucky I never got into much debt. That's a snowball that can quickly expand and compound and crush you over time. Think of debt as something that takes away your freedom. Now, there are times in business when it makes sense to borrow money, but you need to be clear and know the risk-reward payoffs. Debt is probably the single item that will prevent you from achieving freedom. So when you make that choice to borrow, ask yourself, is this debt bringing me closer to the freedom I want, or is it moving away from what I really want? A moment of happiness on stuff will disappear quickly while the monthly payment seems to go on forever. I've also learned to stop wanting stuff. We fuss so much about buying things and accumulating, and then one day you realize you have all this stuff and it no longer makes you happy, and now you have to maintain it. Now I pay people to clean it up and take it away. Isn't that ironic? How much more money would I have had if I never bought the stuff that I forget I even have today? How many of you people pay for a storage unit to store stuff you will never use? The problem is, no one's going to pay for advertising to tell you, don't buy anything. It doesn't make economic sense. So stop buying stuff to impress people who you don't even like. I grew up at a change in generations, the end of the baby boomers and the beginning of Gen X. The generation before me went to work for a company and stayed there their entire life and retired with a pension. Job hopping was a bad thing. That was the mindset I was raised with. It cost me a lot of money and income. Companies tend to give you a big bump to join them, but then they give you small raises once you are there. If you find yourself in this situation, it seems smart to make the jumps while you can, while you're still young. Let's look at an example of someone who's 27 years old and earns $45,000 a year. If they stay put in their company and they earn 3.5% raises, by the time they are 50, they will earn $100,000 a year. However, if they start doing job hops, and they do a job hop at 30, 34, 37, and again at 41 for a 15% bump in pay each time, they end up making $150,000 a year at 50 instead of $100,000. So it's a 50% increase in their salary. It's a lot easier to do this when you are young and mobile and you don't have a family and kids to think about. It's amazing what happens when you sit down and run the math of your life. That's another mistake I made. I focused on the saving side of the equation and not enough on the earning side of the equation. More job hopping at an earlier age would have brought me much more income over my lifetime. Oh, another big one. Thinking I had to do it all myself, to be the tough guy who didn't need help. What a mistake. Getting help, having mentors, creating a mastermind group, delegating stuff to other people, even just admitting I was struggling would have dramatically helped me get ahead. You should want people to open doors and help you succeed instead of feeling bad about that. With my current real estate business, I find experts in most of the parts of the business and let them do work. Can I fix stuff? Yes. I can paint. I can drop wood floors and do plumbing. But I won't. It's not the best use of my time. I can spend my time making more money elsewhere and letting the experts do their best in my real estate business. Long, hard lesson learned. I sometimes still forget, and I try and do something myself, and then I realize what a fool I am. The reminder is always good. Now I ask for advice all the time, admit my shortcomings, and look for help. Speaking of which, if you enjoy this podcast, would you please share it with your friends on Facebook or whatever social media you use or any groups that you belong to? And leave a review on iTunes. Thanks for helping me. Speaking of real estate, I had decades of experience before I actually started investing. I had the wrong mindset with rental real estate, and it cost me a lot of money in not starting early enough. Real estate is a long-term game, 15 to 30 years. So starting in your 20s makes for an early success. Starting in your 40s means you'll have to wait till almost 60 to reap the benefits. Overcoming the fear, taking the leap, and possibly making a mistake would have helped me overcome this and would have allowed me a lot more wealth. There are so many good resources to learn about real estate without spending money. I recommend Bigger Pockets website as one place to start. In creating wealth, there are a variety of ways. One is to spend less than you earn and invest the difference. Another is real estate. And lastly, there is running a business. All of them work, and you can combine all three together as well. It's easier than ever to start a business today, with the internet to help you market to the world. I wish I had started this podcast a long time ago. Had I done it when the change of the internet had come around, I would have probably been a pioneer in the field and well ahead of where I am today. Again, I didn't take action, but here I am, continuing on. I also never spent enough time understanding my strengths and weaknesses and how to leverage them. For example, one strength/weakness I have is that I see problems and risks in everything. What that does is make me cautious and fearful. Now, when buying real estate, having that skill means you probably won't make a big mistake. It also means you may not take action. Overcoming that fear has helped me gain far more success, learning from mistakes along the way, and most of them have only resulted in small losses versus large losses. The strength of seeing problems everywhere is that I can create plans to handle the issues or prevent the problems before they occur. I don't get myself into a situation that is guaranteed to fail. My plans work out because I looked for all the problems in them and I figured out how to fix them before they occurred. And then I made the decision to jump ahead. Most of us don't realize our superpowers because it seems like something so natural that you can't believe it's important, and you assume everyone thinks that same way. The best way to learn is to ask those around you what they think you're great at. What is it that you have the natural ability to do? Something they might even envy. Another way to learn about ourselves is to take different personality tests. 3 of the most popular ones that I know of are DISC, D-I-S-C, Myers-Brigg, and Colby. You can usually find the first 2 for free, and you have to pay for the third. By taking the tests, you get a picture into how you think, and once you know, there are many sites that will tell you what your strengths and weaknesses are based on your personality profile. They can also tell you the types of careers and positions and businesses that best suit your personality type. For example, outgoing idea people are great for creating and selling a vision, but they need a person behind them that is good at turning ideas into actions and creating the action to make that happen. Each of us alone fails, but together we create greater success. Knowing what you are good at and like to do can help you find the right situation that allows you to shine instead of being held back because you are in the wrong place. I think I heard it best when I heard the comment, if you judge a fish by his ability to climb a tree, you're guaranteed failure. It's not what fish do, and yet they're great at swimming. You have to make sure you're in the right place with your talent set. And that's something that took me a long time to figure out. When we're young, it's best that we take more risks because we have the least to lose. I should have done that more so at a younger age. The good news is that now that I have financial abundance, I can take more risks because the losses won't hurt me. I get to leap with a parachute. One other mistake I made was that I was focused on retirement as a time in life when I would stop working and just sit around and enjoy doing whatever I chose. That meant I may have missed some good things along the journey. It also means I missed the bigger picture, which is that work is not a bad thing. I love doing this podcast, meeting and coaching people, and constantly learning. I spend hours reading, taking more courses, listening to other podcasts. It's not work for me, it's a joy. And now that I see that, it's amazing. Looking to spend time doing what we enjoy. Now, mind you, I'm not telling you to quit your job and follow your passions. Everything has struggles, including this endeavor. But working towards a bigger picture and purpose and steering yourself towards that purpose, that's really cool. I feel more excited and alive than ever. And I'm happy to be doing what I'm doing every day. I also failed at breaking rules. I now see that rules are meant to keep order, but that successful people and smart people break the rules. Now, I'm not talking about doing something illegal. I'm talking about doing things outside of social norms or what we think we should be doing. Don't follow the crowd and don't do what you're supposed to do. Break the rules in a nice way and ask for what you want in life. A couple 100 years ago, we lived at dangerous times where if you didn't follow the rules or you ventured off the path, you were much more likely to die, maybe even be attacked by an animal. And so instinctively, we don't like to do these things. But today, that's not the case. Today, the rules we follow aren't exactly the things maybe we should. For example, I've seen a few people advocate for asking for a discount at Starbucks for coffee, along the lines of, hey, can I have 10% off my cup of coffee? It's not about getting the discount, but it's about leaning out and trying new things, breaking the patterns. At work, you probably see some people break the rules and achieve success. The reality is, many rules are meant to keep order, and not because they are right or good. They are about other people trying to hold on to you and prevent your success. Maybe not even preventing your success, but allowing them success. They don't want their boat rocked. So they want to make sure you stay still in yours so that they don't have to do more and they don't have to worry. Which leads us to worry. How often have I worried about something only to have it never happen? So often we spend 90% of the time worrying about things that will never come to be. And even if they do, who cares? Do you remember what you were worrying about a year ago? Some incident? I don't. I can't even remember what I was worrying about last week. But I still do it. The last time we were heading to the airport, traffic was horrible. We barely made it to the airport. The parking shuttle was late, and I didn't think we'd make it to the flight. But I was like, hey, whatever, it'll work out. You know what? We made the flight. Now, mind you, it was easy for me not to worry about missing the flight that time because I was going to go visit my wife's family. It was a perfect time to practice not worrying. And it worked out in the end. We made the flight. I also didn't do so well with relationships and keeping in touch with friends over the years. It's so much easier today with Facebook and other social media. When we left college, everyone scattered, and the only way to find people was to buy the alumni directory and hope it had their contact info in there, and then make long-distance calls that could easily cost 25 to 50 cents or more per minute. Those relations are the people who can propel you in life, and I didn't put the effort in. I tell my kids now, start thinking about putting together a team. It doesn't mean you'll all work with these people together at a company or so, but that you have a network in a wide variety of areas with people you trust and like that can help you in the future. They can help you open doors and give you the help you need for a step up, which, I think we talked about that a little bit earlier about always being self-reliant instead of relying on others to give us the step up. I think we said that before as well. Now I make it a point to connect and follow up with people. I'm always amazed at who steps up to say, hey, I can help with that. It's never who you think, and you'll be surprised at who it is in your friends' network that will do it. It's all about shifting your mindsets. They say you are the average of the 5 people around you. So have you picked 5 people who inspire you to surround yourself with? I know for years I didn't do this, but now I do. I have an amazing group of people around me who motivate me and drive me forward. I now have the confidence to sit next to the CEO of a Fortune 500 company and chat about life struggles just as much as I can with a parent who stays home and watches their kids. In the past, I would worry about what I would say or that I had to impress someone. But just knowing who you are and being comfortable in your own skin brings a certain level of confidence. We also tend to look backwards instead of forwards. For example, stock returns, the future of the job market. Remember when I said I was raised that you didn't job hop? Our mindsets are based on our experiences, and so what's familiar and expected is how we act instead of actually looking forward and figuring out how the world is changing and taking small risks. What we have experienced in the past is not necessarily what the future will hold. If you look back through history, most people saw very little change occur during their entire lifetimes. Not so in the last 100 years. Everything is changing, and at an ever faster pace, so what happened before won't necessarily happen in the future. That said, people react the same. The same people being entertained in Roman times by watching gladiator fights in the Colosseum is no different than the people being entertained today watching football in that same stadium. The world may have changed, but people are very much the same. You have to look at the way successful people behave. I can assure you they're not doing it watching 4 hours of TV a day or spending time entertaining themselves, which I did a lot of in college. Yes, entertainment is fun, but a life of entertainment doesn't help you achieve your goals. Sports is much the same way. I love watching my kids and friends play sport, but I really don't have much time for professional sports unless it's with my friends and we're hanging out, enjoying each other's company. We can so easily get caught up in the hype. We all want to win, and if we think we're part of a winning team, then we feel good. But the reality is, we're not part of that winning team when it comes to professional sports. We're just a spectator who's giving our money away. Another area that I've got caught up in the hype of the moment is auctions. Once you are in and you're bidding, you want to win. And sometimes you'll win at the cost of overpaying, which means you're losing. You have to keep those emotions in check and know your walkaway number, or you just made a mistake. Ego is a big driver in this, and the good auctioneer knows it. He'll pull your ego as much as you can, and instead of looking at the total cost of what you're bidding on, let's say I'm at $1,000, he's going to focus on $10. Come on, another $10 and it's yours. And so you go to $1,010. And the next thing you know, it's $1,030. And the next thing you know, it's $1,500, and you just overpaid by $500 because you got caught up in the hype and the ego. I know, been there, done that too. So where do we find wisdom in history, and where can we learn from? One of the things is religious books. Have you ever heard of the Serenity Prayer? God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Major failure for me on this one. Accepting and letting go is hard. I still struggle with this one. And the wisdom to know the difference. You see so many things you know can be fixed, but not by you alone. And you keep spinning your wheels trying to do something to only get nowhere, and then not having the courage to change the things you can. You don't want to know the biggest thing you can change is you, your mindsets, your habits, your thoughts, your attitudes. Changing these things radically changed my life and happiness level. That courage level flows into every other part of my life. I won't say I have the wisdom to always remember, but then again, it's a journey and a learning experience. Also, remembering what's important to your purpose versus the shiny objects that show up in our life every day. It helps to have the wisdom to know the difference. Along those lines is trying to change the system versus changing the rules. When my kids were young and we looked at schools for them, I was willing to join the school board to make sure they focused on education. My wife was smart enough to say, just write the check for private school and shut up. Wise woman. Along those lines, it's best to change the rules than to try and change the system. Uber is a perfect example of changing the rules of transportation. Airbnb has done the same to the hotel industry. Both much wiser people than me, but clearly an example of seeing a problem, changing the rules instead of fighting the system. I think you're going to see a lot more of this. And if you can be the person doing this, even if it's at a tiny level, you can achieve great financial abundance for yourself. I think for most people, the hardest part with doing something is getting started. Most people wonder, how can I start a side business or invest in real estate? How can I get a better job? We tend to look and learn and think instead of just leaning in and doing, taking action. The biggest problem with leaning in and doing is the mistakes and fears that hold us back. But we also learn so much from it. I don't encourage people taking massive risks that end up in failure. But even then, people like Dave Ramsey, Robert Kiyosaki, author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and Donald Trump have all been bankrupt or foreclosed upon. They failed. It was a massive struggles, but the lessons they learned propel them so much further because it's not about failing, it's about what happens next. Do you make the same mistake? Do you learn and move ahead? Many people tend to keep making the same mistake, which is not good, but learning and moving on is. Also, if you can learn from someone else's mistakes, that's even better than you having to make them and go through the struggle. Get-rich schemes never seem to work. However, hard work over time does pay off. You have to see the bigger purpose, do the math to see where you are at, and then slowly take steps in the right direction. There will be failure, but that's just part of the process. You have to keep going. So if you've suffered a setback or a failure, bad choice in jobs, bad real estate deal, bad investment, bad lover, what are you going to do? Are you going to give up? Are you going to step up and say, I've learned my lesson, and now I'm going to move forward? The most successful people have stories filled with setback and failure, and those stories are the most compelling that everybody wants to hear. We always love to hear the story of someone who overcame failure and became a success. Accept that we are not perfect, and realize if you're doing your best, then life is good for you. So that's a question to ask yourself. Did I do my best today to, and fill in the blank with whatever it is that you want to do your best at today. Ask yourself and rate yourself every day for the things that matter most to you. We have one life to live, so don't live it in regrets. Choose to live it the way you want. Imagine your life of success and start moving in that direction. If you need help, seek it out. Have those discussions. If you're interested, I have an introductory 2-hour coaching session where we sit down and we look at your life and all the different puzzle pieces. And I can help put together the next steps and send you one step further on your journey to success and abundance. Please don't make the mistake of waiting or not taking action. Regardless if you take that step with me, someone else, or just find some other resource to get you to the next step, just do it. So often we think and dream about doing something. We all have these dreams and we do nothing. Nothing is more important, though, than taking action. This held me back from so many business ideas and real estate deals I could have done. Would it have gone perfect? No. But doing nothing surely guaranteed that I didn't go anywhere. I want to leave you with this quote from a book called A Manual for Living. It's from Epictetus, who was a philosopher who lived about 2,000 years ago. Now is the time to get serious about living your ideals. Once you have determined the spiritual principles you wish to exemplify, abide by these rules as if they were laws, as if they were indeed sinful to compromise them. Don't mind if others don't share your convictions. How long can you afford to put off who you really want to be? Your nobler self cannot wait any longer. Don't put your principles into practice now. Stop the excuses and procrastination. This is your life. You aren't a child anymore. The sooner you set yourself to spiritual program, the happier you will be. The longer you wait, the more you will be vulnerable to mediocrity and feel filled with shame and regret because you know you are capable of better. From this instant on, vow to stop disappointing yourself, separate from the mob, decide to be extraordinary, and do what you need to do now. That's wisdom from 2,000 years ago. Thanks for listening. Go take action to create an amazing life. And if you need help, please reach out to me or someone else, and we'll see about getting you to take the next step on your great journey. Thanks for listening.